Okay, and welcome to the 12 months of the Awesome Warrior program. It's great that you're here. There's going to be quite a few in this group, and I'm going to take the opportunity in this video to just tell you a little bit about what you're going to be doing. My name's Tim Davies. I run something called fastjetperformance.com. I do a lot of things with that, but mainly it's writing and it's presentation work as well. So if you aren't familiar with it, get across there now, have a read of some of the essays. What I decided to do, it was break away from that a little bit into a group format so that we can all take the teachings of what I taught young fighter pilots, and we can use them to better ourselves in the concept of becoming an awesome warrior. Now, what is the 12 months of the Awesome Warrior program? I hear you cry, and it's good for you to do that. Right, so I've got a laptop down here. I've got some notes there. I'm going to break it into, I think, about 5 stages. Shouldn't take too long, this video, really, but I'm going to give you some understanding of what we're going to be doing over the next 12 months. As you can see, this will be one of the teaching rooms. This is my office at my house. I've got King George VI sword down here. I've got a picture of Dartmouth up there because I was a naval officer before. I was an officer in the Royal Air Force, and some of the jets I've flown on the left-hand side there because I've been teaching for the last decade. I've been flying jets now for about 20 years. So as I transition outside the service into the writing, into the presentation and the sort of performance delivery, human factors space, what I want to do is run this program for a lot of people as a way of giving something back from what I've learned over my 20 years back into the taxpayer that's helped me to do that. So it's a free program, guys, and I really want you to get involved. I really want you to contribute. There's about 400 people now in the actual group, 400 warriors that want to make themselves better. Let's have a look at what it is, shall we? So it's a 12-month program, and every single month I run through a different theme, all on the understandings of the fundamentals of what I call warriorship. And it all is based around the teachings of air combat. So it's what we taught the students through the squadron that I used to be on. Everything really, I'll use demonstrations of the airborne content, obviously, and I'll try and find some of those for you. But really what we're taking is the fundamental warrior-like principles that we taught these students, and we're then giving them to you. The reason I'm doing this is because a lot of people, and probably myself included to a certain extent, have kind of lost their place, really. There's no real direction anymore. It's very difficult out there with all social media and all this kind of stuff. So I'm kind of handing something back so we can get some firm sort of footing, as it were, so we can all move forward in life. If you see me in the white t-shirt, by the way, the white polo shirt with Fast Jet Performance on it, brilliant. If you see me on that, that's because I'm delivering you content, and we'll have a look at how we're going to go through the sort of itinerary and the schedule in a second. So the key really to this program over the next 12 months is that you should end up being what I would call hard to kill. And that's what we're looking for from the students that are going through the basic fighting maneuvers or the air combat phases that we used to teach. If we take the hard to kill a bit from the military aspect and put it into a civilian context, really what I'm trying to give you is something where you'll be too good to be ignored. Your whole being will project some energy of completeness or a striving for perfection, and you'll get noticed wherever you go, which will make you more employable, it'll make you a better parent, it'll make you a better spouse. So really we should be looking at trying to develop that over the next 12 months. What is a warrior, I hear you ask? And it's very good of you to ask that. A warrior then, if you look at the dictionary, says a brave or experienced fighter or soldier. Now, not many of you here are soldiers, although I know some of you are. There's a lot of military on the forum right now, which is great to see. But we will all be fighters in the end. And that's quite important, really, because when we have a look at what a fighter is, and we'll talk about that now, there are some traits in the warrior and the fighter, and that's what we're trying to build up. Those traits, really, as I see them, this is about getting a forceful soul. It's about strength, courage, direction, determination is important as well. Someone who's action orientated with the ability to execute and not just have ideas. But really overall, it's someone that fights the good fight for the many people. So they're not fighting for themselves, they're fighting for the people in their family, in their workplace, in their social construct, and the underdog, really. And the overriding principle, really, I would say about the warrior is that they have compassion, and they were able to give something to others other than themselves. That's quite important. Those are the kind of traits that we're going to really be working on, and as I said, the way we'll do that is through a 12-month program. So we're a small unit, about 400 people, and that makes it possible to help each other. So we'll have a look at the rules in a minute about how we're going to do that on the group, about how we're going to look at active participation. That's very important. What's the schedule going to be like? Yeah, absolutely. So 12 months, we're in Positivity January already. And I've done a video about that before. We've gone through that a little bit about what that means. You should be wearing a band on your wrist. I've taken mine off at the moment because I'm about to go rowing, so I don't want any kind of stuff on like that. I always put that back on again, wear that at night. And we've talked about what Positivity January is about. But the reason we're doing positivity first before anything else is because when I used to fly with students that would go into an air combat situation and they were underconfident, then they would be the one that would lose. In effect, they've lost before they've got in the aeroplane. So what I'm trying to get across to people in the initial step of Positivity January is to look for opportunities to overcome negativity, OON, right? Recognize those negative emotions, negative events that are happening in your life, and then trying to see them in a different way so you can be positive about them. It makes a real fundamental change within you, and the way we're doing that is by using a band on our wrist or a watch that we can change over, that kind of thing. So we're coming to the end of Positivity January, and that really takes me back to the schedule that I'm talking about now, because what I'm going to be doing then on the first Sunday of the month, I'll be putting out a film like this. The film will be in the group. I'll try and pin it so you can see really what that month is going to entail. It should be nothing too arduous, but there's a lot of thinking in this. There's nothing physical, but there is a lot of mental stuff going on. So I'll drop a film in, it will talk about what we're doing that month, and then during the month, the group will support each other in trying to attain those goals. That's the idea. When we get to the third Sunday in the month then, we'll start to look at washing up, a bit of a summary, a bit of a debrief about that month. And that's probably going to be on a Facebook Live interactive type of video thing. If you ever need to get hold of me, you can obviously through the group. You just message me directly through Facebook if you're having issues with that, whatever's going on. And of course, when the first film comes out on the first Sunday, we'll have a discussion in the comments about exactly how we're going to refine that to individual needs if necessary. So what are the rules? Yeah, we've got some rules, haven't we? So things are going to go crazy. Okay, so I used to fly airplanes a lot. And don't get me wrong, I'm still into aviation, and a lot of people that are in this group are also into aviation. This is a performance enhancement group. We're trying to become, as I said, warriors and understand what that means in a very spiritual and emotional sense within each one of us. What I don't particularly want is people spamming the site with photographs of aeroplanes and this sort of thing. I'll have to take those down, unfortunately. It's not about that. But if there's an aviation topic or content that you've seen that actually does follow one of the themes that we're doing, if it's relevant to performance enhancement or the way that we're trying to go by being an awesome warrior, then yes, put that content in. But I'd like you to comment on it. I don't want you to drop a link into YouTube. I'd like you to write exactly why you're dropping that link in, what it means to you, if it's maybe changed your life, that kind of thing. Secondly, I love all the quotes that we put on. And I love people when people drop in quotes with a picture in the background, and I'll be doing that myself as well to reinforce that month's theme. I very much like that. Please don't drop like 5 of them in one day yourself. Moderate each other. That comes back to moderators, in fact. So I'm the admin, but I've got about 6 moderators, cross-section of society. Majority, they, I believe, are in the military at the moment still. If a moderator is moderating you, they're doing it for a reason. Because I have to set up boundaries and I have to give you a direction. The group is run by me. So I have to be the one that limits your either exposure to certain material that I think is going to be bad for you in the way that the group is going, or I'm going to have to limit the content that you're putting into the group if that content is negative. We're not a negative group. So whatever happens within this group, it has to be about positivity. That's why we're doing this first. It's about positivity. This group has to drive each other's journey. Now, let's talk about that journey. Every single one of you, and me as well, is on a different road. And on that road, you're in a different place. That's very important to understand. So let's not have a go at anyone. Let's not tear people apart. It's not about that. It's about working out where you are and how you can contribute to those other people. That should make a lot of sense. Okay, your role then, basically, is to get involved and to contribute. Get into those comments, really find out who each other are. I really want that. I really want to help each other. Make relationships with the people that you think are helping you out the most. It's about a journey together. This is not a solo individual trip, although a lot of the things you'll be doing will challenge you. Some of you will leave, and that's fine, because even if you leave me, I'm still going to be there for you if you want to come back. Don't worry about that. If you don't want to contribute, I understand that, because you may want to contribute more the following year. I would just like you to add some content and comment on other people's content, if that makes sense. I'm going to put out an essay or something every month as well. It'll either be on the Fast Jet Performance page or it'll be on in the group, but I'll direct you to that. And that should explain a little bit more about what I'm talking about when we go through these individual themes. That's quite important. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the syllabus. I think I've pretty much got everything there. The syllabus then. And again, this is really take or give as much as you want, as much as you feel you can handle at the moment. I want to get a real good balance in there, okay? So we're going through Positivity January at the moment, where we wear a band or we change our watch over on different wrists when we think that we've been involved in some negative situations. And we see at the end of the month, really how long we've managed to keep that band on one wrist. Some people would have done maybe a day, a couple of hours, or other people may have done maybe 3 or 4 days. When we repeat this later in October time, maybe November, we'll see how we've kind of grown across that year, across that period, all right? So all these months add into everything else. Just because you're being positive this month doesn't mean you stop being positive next month. You still be positive next month, okay? That's the key. So we're learning and we're building through an iterative process. All the sums of the small parts are going to make a great change in our life in the future when we become awesome warriors at Christmas. Right, so really this month is about resilience. It's about a foundational build of positivity within the individual. That's what I want. It's about maintenance of morale, which is like a principle of war. It's about wabi sabi, which is really the appreciation of the imperfect. So I wrote an essay, I wrote a post on that recently. It's on the site there as well. So it's those kind of things. It's foundational. It's a build. It's looking at who you are as an individual and maybe a spiritual and emotional sense. Okay, even whack a bit of physical in there if you want to as well. So it's about being positive. It's about turning really poor situations into something that has some good. And we know it's hard, but that's why we're doing it, because if it was easy, we wouldn't need to, would we? Good stuff. Next month, however, and these are all topics that are based around the teachings of air combat. So all these terms are going to be used in air combat by the Typhoon Squadrons, F-35s, F-16s, F-15s. Any of you airborne warriors that are already here and still in the military recognise these terms, of course. I'll try and use a whiteboard maybe. All I might do for these is take the Dartmouth picture down and we can actually use that blue area there, or we just find another room. Whatever, I'll go and find another room. And we'll just try and describe these principles and how they are used in the military and how they relate to you as an individual. February. Now, again, we're building up really to a fight. So we've talked about the positivity and the mindset of the student as he comes into an air combat engagement. If they don't believe they're going to win, then they won't win. All right, and I've seen that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Okay, and I've really had to kind of take control of the aircraft, separate, recalibrate the student's mindset, if that is indeed possible at that time, and get them back into that fight again. Positivity is self-belief, okay? So as they come into the fight, then we're looking for that positive mindset. When they actually get into the fight, then we need to start looking at the aggressive aspect that they are painting for the other aircraft. So we call that lead turning. All right, so it's about taking a massive lead turn, and I will describe that really with use of fighting sticks. It's basically turning and getting as many angles as you can on the other aircraft before he even either sees you or he starts even reacting to you. So what I'm trying to get in the lead turn February is we're talking about planning, anticipation, we're talking about execution, we're talking about predicting, we're talking about being present, and we're talking about turning up. We're talking about forcing change, you forcing change that you want in your own life, because a lot of people, they wait for that change to happen. And the people that don't wait for the change to happen, go out and make the change, strangely enough, good things happen to them and change actually happens because they're driving that change themselves. And I'll be talking a lot about the whole concept of a lot of people who speak to me saying, oh, I really want to be successful. When I do the coaching and I say to them, what does success mean to you? And of course they don't know. So, you know, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Does that make sense? And a lot of people out there don't know where they are going. So we're talking about always turning towards an aggressor. And when I talk about an aggressor here, obviously I'm talking in a combat term, but really when we look at a civilian aggressor, it might be someone in your life you're having a problem with. So it might be your boss, your spouse, maybe a child, maybe a parent. And what I'm saying is a lot of people will turn away from that. And in February, we're going to learn how to turn towards it. And that's really important. We're going to walk towards the sound of guns. All right, and that came from a guy who was killed a few years back called Chris Raybors, an essay I wrote about him on Fast Jet Performance. So this is about being present, being fearful maybe, but using that as an energy state and walking into hostility. It's about turning up. All right, it's about going to those jobs that you don't want to go to, getting it done, and then driving that change in your life to make a difference. That's February, and I'll do a full briefing on that. Then we're looking at March is going to be Sanctuary March. And in March, we're going to talk about, well, a sanctuary in an air combat term really is when you lose sight of everything, you lose what we call situational awareness. What you'll do is you'll go to your sanctuary, and a sanctuary in this particular case will probably be a height, and on the ground you'll say, right, no, Wolf 1, your sanctuary is 10,000, Wolf 2, you're at 11, and Wolf 3, you're at 12 or something like that. So if someone calls sanctuary go, everyone would just get to those different areas, and that means that they're not going to hit anyone else. They're in a safe place. In March, I want to talk to you about how to get yourself into that sanctuary, how to get yourself into that safe place. It's really important. A lot of what we're doing is going to challenge you, and you're going to need to know how to get yourself into an area where you just allow your brain to think. You allow to be able to reduce the cognitive load on your mind so you can absorb more information in. We're going to talk about that. So really, things we'll cover then in March are probably going to be along the lines of meditation, mindfulness, being in nature and understanding what that really means, again, being present. It's allowing recovery, freedom of action. It's understanding our vulnerabilities, understanding who we are as individuals. And it's fine if you don't like yourself. We're going to cover that as well. Everyone's having a problem with that at the moment. Some of the things we're going to cover in March as well are quite deep. So I've left it until March to talk about this. And it's things about self-reflection, self-actualization, which is quite an interesting one about who you really are. We'll have a think about that as well. So that's March. That's the first quarter of the year taken care of. Now, depending on what the group does and what the group wants next, I haven't actually programmed anything specifically for the rest of the month. So I'm going to tell you the topics we're going to cover. There are more than 12 because we're going to combine some of these. And if we find those first 3 months a little bit difficult, you know what? We'll take out some of the harder stuff, all right? We'll put it to the back end of the year. So what we're looking at then? So we're looking at other air combat terms like nose pointing, which is focusing your aggression and your energies and your execution in a certain direction. Like a selection and maintenance of the aim type thing. Economy of effort we'll be looking at as well. So I really want to look at how you can maximize your resources, not wasting time. That's the key. Directing your effort again, we looked at there. We'll cover that a bit later when we look at energy management as well, which is another term. I'll be looking at, in effect, what we call turn performance, sustained turn and instantaneous turn rates, and that will cover really how your work rate is, because we can work hard for 5 days and collapse at a weekend, but we can't sustain that over those 7 days. So I want to really try and talk about how we balance those energy levels, which is very important, of course. Compartmentalization, a really critical one. We'll be looking at that. That's about letting things go. That's about taking what you're doing now and positively January with the negativity, understanding that you're negative, taking it, putting it in a box and addressing it later. And we'll look at that. That's quite important. That's what the students need to do if they have a bad trip or they have a bad event on a sortie, is they take that bad event, they put it in a box and they just don't think about it for the sortie. They carry on trying to perform as hard as they can. When they come back, we'll unpack that box and we'll get the lessons from that and we'll learn from them. Great stuff. We're looking at accuracy, expediency, execution, getting things done, reducing time to kill, and reducing your exposure to things that are going to make you negative and make you not in a great place. We'll talk about how some people are going to do something like one day and how you can get into the mindset of making this day one. That's another thing we're going to talk about as well, which again comes back to execution. We'll talk about exploiting your environment you're in to maximize your gains. We'll talk about, what else? Playing to your strengths and not your weaknesses. Critically important, especially in the air combat arena, especially in the life arena as well. We'll talk about, again, turning up, being present, engaging, facing up to the challenges in your life. We'll talk about the physical, we will talk about physical fitness, and we will talk about what that means to get out there into nature, into a walk, leaving a phone at home, that kind of stuff. But really, we're going to talk about mental adaptability and conditioning, which is quite important. We'll talk about teamwork, the teams that you're in, either in the workplace or at the home, and how you can support them. That's what a warrior does. We'll also talk about consistency, perseverance. We will look at plan Bs, always having an escape option. People say that's not committing to the aim, and I disagree, especially in air combat. You've got to be able to see your option to escape, get away. because that's sensible. We talk about lead pursuit, which again, lead turning your day. We talk about pitch back, which is where you turn around and you face up to your problems again. We talk about all these different things really that all come out of, and there's a load more as well, and I really want to drive some of those other things into these things. But of course, what I don't want to do is overcomplicate your journey. I really want you to be able to define exactly where you are and move from a good place of where you are now even to a superb place by Christmas time. That's exceptionally important to me. Again, take as little or as much as you want of this, because it's your journey. I'm just here to facilitate that, to make sure you don't tear each other apart and make sure you play nicely. Halfway through the year though, if you are having a good time on the program, I'd ask you to invite someone else onto it as well, because a lot of this program is about contribution, and you'll be contributing to someone else's success and well-being. That's exceptionally important to me. Right, there's other guys out there as well, and girls on the forum who, as I said, will be helping you out. There's a whole cross-section of people out there, from airline training captains to guys that are just starting elementary flying training. There's people that work in sports, there's people that work in banks, financial houses. So the whole of the group is made up of some excellent individuals. So if you can contribute, then they'll be contributing as well, and the power of the whole is just incredible when you think about it. So Tim Davies then, any questions, please whack them in the comments and I'll have a look at them. And I will always be around doing this, by the way. A lot of the content I'm going to be putting on is just going to be a smartphone whilst I'm, out giving a presentation or something. I've got a lot of that stuff coming up. I would say this as well, if you do want me to come to your businesses, to your air squadrons, to your air training corps units, there's one of me, unfortunately, and I can't be everywhere. But I probably can get someone else to come and do, especially the military side, if you're close to a Royal Air Force station or Royal Navy or an Army establishment. Business-wise, of course, I'll be more than happy to come up, do training days, human factors, crew resource management, that kind of stuff. Awesome. Right, I don't think I have anything for you at the moment. Get involved with the group there, guys. Take as much or as little as you want. And thank you for listening. All right, Tim Davies, Fast Jet Performance, 12 months of the Awesome Warrior.